Hey, welcome to episode 17 of Keeping It Real, where we keep things real here on Long Island regarding real estate and all things Long Island. I'm joined today with a special guest, once again, our mother, Barbara Leonard. I'm Jon-David Leonard. I'm the team leader of the Leonard team. And today, I just want to go on a journey through Long Island. Mom,
Yes.
how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, Long Island is our home. And it has been for, I was raised here. I went away a little bit for college, went away for a couple of years here and there, but, lived basically my whole life on Long Island. And it's just such a unique place. You raised us to travel. We've always gone on vacations. And whenever we've come back, Long Island, as I've grown, it just seems like a special place, sometimes a challenging place, a beautiful place, sometimes, it's strip malls for miles, but there's just nowhere else I've traveled in the world that quite compares to Long Island, the place that we call home. So where did you grow up? Where were you born? Tell us about your childhood.
Okay, I was actually born in Manhattan,
Okay.
uh, right near Bloomingdale's. I was raised in Brooklyn, which is technically Long Island.
Still Long Island.
It's still Long Island, and spent first few years there. Then moved to Queens, which is still Long Island, and then from Queens. In 1972, my husband and I bought a home in Smithtown. Just took a drive out one day, met an agent. He showed us a house, and we walked in and we just fell in love with it. And we thought it would be our first house, but 50 some odd years later, we're still living in Smithtown, enjoying that house and the surrounding area.
Wow. What year did you buy that house?
1972.
1972.
For $43,000.
$43,000, 1972. Fair to say, seen some inflation over the years?
Yes, saw some inflation because at that time I was a teacher, and while the house was 43,000, maybe my salary at that time was like 9,000. So things have changed as far as the amount of money that we make and also what we spend on houses.
Right. What were your earliest memories of Long Island? Not including, of course, the boroughs that you grew up in, but when did you start exploring Long Island?
Long Island exploring was a big part of my childhood. My father and mother would take my brother and myself since I think my father got his first car in like 1950. And we would go for our rides when he got home from work, or our Saturday and Sunday drives. And we would see, example, Hempstead Turnpike in 1950s were farms, believe it or not.
Wow.
And then saw the development of the homes and the shopping centers and eventually the malls. And sometimes, like today, when have agents looking to list homes in Levittown. I remember when Levittown started and was the small little houses bought by the veterans from World War II.
You remember that?
I remember that.
Wow.
I remember going, and there were open houses all over the place because all these farms in Nassau County were quickly being developed. And in order to get people to come into the open houses, to get them into their development, there would be lotteries. And you could come in and have a chance of winning a home for free.
Getting a home for free.
If you came into that open house and your name was...
Wow. And it predated basements, right? So those Levitt homes, they were basically just put on
Right.
slab,
And very, very tiny.
very small.
Yes.
But at the time, I mean, Long Island is home to the suburbs, right? These were the first suburbs in the country after when the troops started coming home.
Correct, because Levittown, I believe, was started in 1948. So the troops were just, arriving back, a lot of them.
Wow. And so, what are some of your memories? Did you come as far east as Smithtown in your Sunday ride? It's so funny because, even to this day, like, oh, you're on a Sunday drive or something like that. It's like a figure of speech, but for you, it was like a very real thing. Your parents would put you in the car. You'd go for these Saturday or Sunday drives. Was that unique to your family, or is that something that families did?
I think families did it, but I think it was unique to my family because they really liked exploring and seeing Long Island. So, it really basically was mostly Nassau County.
Okay.
And it could have been after my father came home from work, we'd go up to Glen Cove or we'd drive around Manhasset
Hmm.
and the North Shore, and then also a lot of the South Shore. I remember what is now Lido Beach, uh, just east of Long Beach, being just dunes. There were no homes there or anything.
Wow. Just dunes. That's interesting. Kind of like when you're driving along that Ocean Parkway, about just past Gilgo. It would have been kind of like that.
Just like that. And Suffolk County was the South Shore.
Hmm.
We'd go to Bay Shore, which was like a small little town.
Yeah.
With every main town had like the drugstore on the corner, and
Hmm.
there was the Howard Johnson's type of thing. So,
What is Howard Johnson's for those that don't know? What it
okay,
was Howard Johnson's, and was it? It seemed like an important part of the fabric of Long Island back in the
yes,
day.
yes. In fact, Smithtown was one of the Howard Johnsons they would go to. And Howard Johnson's had like an orange roof or
Yeah.
something, and it was almost looked like the fast food chains of today, with the hamburgers and salads and breakfast all day, and
Formica countertops and
yes,
stuff like that,
yeah,
and the
maybe
benches.
yeah, maybe on the tables you would have a little box, and you could press it and listen to music if you put like a dime in it or
Mm.
something.
I remember the diner in Smithtown when I was growing up had these little mini jukeboxes at each table. That's what you're talking about.
Yes,
And they'd have like 10 songs on each side, as opposed to like the big one in the middle of the room. I forgot about that.
yeah.
That's old school.
And then Howard Johnson also had, like, for dessert, the different flavored ice creams and everything.
That's what they were known for that.
Yes. And also the beaches were very important. Like, as a child,
Hmm.
when I lived in Queens, we would take, with my friends, and we could be 10 or 11 years old, and already we were taking the buses down to go, let's say, to Rockaway Beach. Or even there was a bus that connected down, and we could take it to um, the beaches, in Nassau County, too.
Awesome. So it's interesting. So as a child in the backseat of the car, you were driven around Long Island, and then you mentioning Howard Johnson's, and there was one in Smithtown. Your parents brought you to one as a child, and then eventually later on in your life, you meet Dad. I remember the story about you guys being in an apartment in the Rockaways, and then deciding that it was time to go settle somewhere. You went on a journey and eventually found your way back to Smithtown. When you found that house in Smithtown, had you put it together that you'd been to that
Oh,
Howard
yes.
Johnson? Like you knew where you
Yeah,
were?
yeah. I knew where I was as far as the Howard Johnsons. I knew nothing about Smithtown, but I knew the Howard Johnsons. And to be honest with you, a lot of times it hasn't been a Howard Johnson's in probably decades. It is now had been previous a burger.
No, it was a Pizza Hut. Oh,
Well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pizza Hut.
Right. It was that American burger
And
place.
and when I pass it, I do think of the days going there when it was a sleepy little town, and my grandmother and my parents and my brother would go to that Howard Johnson's.
Hmm. That's crazy. When I was a child, very young, I do remember going there with your father and your brother, Uncle Howard, while it was still a Howard Johnson's. But man, that's a long time ago. I was
Right.
little. So, how have you seen Long Island change over the years? Has it changed culturally? Has it changed? Obviously it's changed because I remember there being potato farms when you go up Edgewood
Hmm.
Avenue. and obviously those are homes now. How have you seen it fundamentally change?
Uh, it used to be that it was basically people coming from the city buying the homes on Long Island. But now it seems that it's also a lot of local people. They grew up in different places on the island and they have stayed
Hmm.
and enjoy what Long Island gives us is if people like the change of seasons, we sure have them.
Yeah.
We went from bitter cold like today, and we're going to be back in the 40s next week.
Right.
You have the beaches, you have the sound, you have the culture of like Northport has a theater,
Oh, a renowned
town
theater,
theater,
like Broadway level acting is what
right?
I'm still dying to. We should go
We
see
see,
something there.
yeah,
We always talk about it. We don't go, but I do know plenty of people that take advantage of that theater, and that's just the beginning. I mean, there's great restaurants. It's a beautiful place. I remember you taking me there as a child, and standing on the water's edge of that harbor there, that
hmm
bay, watching the boats. Um, and that reminds me that that's a special place for you and I, in my mind. What other towns stand out to you as far as where you get a special feeling? You love spending time and
well, my favorite place right now happens to be Stony Brook.
oh yeah,
Uh, uh,
definitely.
Definitely Stony Brook. I like to go walk along the harbor there, walk towards where the Three Village Inn is, and it's a beautiful town, picturesque. At the time being, we don't have the duck pond since that was destroyed,
Yeah.
but it's just a special place on Long Island. Southampton's another place where through the years my husband and I have enjoyed driving to. It's an old town that goes back to colonial days, and it's picturesque shops. You're right by the ocean there, walk along the beach,
Hmm.
and great restaurants.
Yeah. I've been exploring Manhasset lately, Roslyn Harbor, and there's again great restaurants, really cool, beautiful, downtowns. There's a lot that Long Island has to offer, and I guess that brings me to, you know, on the Lennard team, you provide a very special service to the agents, which in turn provides extremely valuable service to our clients. So what started out, unbeknownst to you as a child being put in a car, and then being shuttled all over Long Island, and then something we didn't mention is that you were a school teacher, and so every day you were going back and forth. There were times where, as you've told us numerous times, there were traveling back and forth to school. Sometimes you'd have to take detours. You learned your way around the island, and I don't know. I haven't met anyone that knows the island extensively as you do. And now that you're in this stage of your career, where you're no longer, you're not sitting at people's kitchen tables, trying to, help them understand whether to list, how much to list for, and all that stuff. You're certainly not taking buyers out. But as you've entered this portion of your career, tell us about like what that's meant for you. What exactly do you do? What value do you provide that I know myself and the team are just so grateful to have you for?
Well, what I do, I really enjoy, and
Yeah.
I enjoy preparing the agents for the listing appointments that they go on, but not just the facts about the houses in the area that are comps to the seller's house, but also I get a feel of the area because of all the going in and out with the different routes. Let's say when I went to school, so let's say they're looking at something in New Hyde Park.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember taking the back roads to avoid the highways,
Right.
and I remember those developments because they're still the same. If you go off of Union Turnpike into New Hyde Park and Manhasset Hills, I remember how they looked then, and I go on Google Map and I compare to what could have been updated or changed in the way the house looks, but I have a feeling for the area and the neighborhood.
Right. So when you do your research, if somebody isn't aware of the nuances from neighborhood to neighborhood, I mean, you could cross, just one street, and it could be a kind of like the homes could have gone up at in a different decade. It could be, it could just have a different feel. The market has determined one side of the street to be more valuable than the other, but if you're not aware of that and you're bringing those as comps, you got to make sure that you're giving the homeowner the best information possible. And I think that level of insight, or even the ability to do the research to figure it out, that I think is super remarkable.
Yeah. But also take Hicksville, for example,
Yeah.
because I just did some research for a listing in Hicksville that the agents just listed and just went on the market yesterday. And you can go on the same street now. There is such a variation in price because someone has taken, let's say, Hicksville and the Levitt houses that are in Hicksville, and someone has taken it and redone it so that it's now over $1 million.
Right.
Where on the same street, you can have a house that has remained basically the same since 1950, and that house could be on the market for $500,000-600,000.
Right.
So it's such different variations there.
Yeah. The first time early in my career where I experienced that myself, I'd say were the New York the Pines between Smithtown, Comac, Hauppauge, where you could have a small ranch unupdated, and then next to it this giant mansion, and that was really eye-opening for me. But again, how you go from community, town, North Shore, South Shore, right up the middle of Long Island, and the value you provide our team, I really believe, I've come to know actually that you're one of the secret weapons that the Lennard team has, and that's one of the reasons why time and again we outperform the market. There's this idea out there, which makes sense if you're not educated to what we have to offer in particular, why you'd want the local agent who understands the local nuances. And you come in and you outperform the local agent that's been working in a neighborhood for decades. And you allow an agent like myself, if maybe I've never I've never sold something in a particular neighborhood, and come in and outperform. And that to me helps us time and again, because another thing that I think of is that, like, when we sit down with sellers, like, we can share all the success, and sometimes it's like, well, how do I know you're going to be able to do for me what you've done for all these other people? And our track record, it just speaks for itself. And then there are times where I'm like, oh gosh, I hope, I've hit it out of the park each time. I hope I can do that again. And we do it. And we do it because you give us the resources and the confidence to continue going forward to deliver that level of service to our clients. And for that, I'm so grateful to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I, as I said earlier, I really, really enjoy doing it because when I'm doing it, there's an excitement in me. And when I find the secret weapon or something that we can use that I know about the community, or I know about a sale that we just had,
Right.
that we can bring to the next seller, it just makes me very excited about it.
I've seen it in your eye where it's like, oh, this is going to be that killer piece of information, that killer insight that's is going to wow that seller and have them understand, why we are the right agents to sell their home, regardless of where it is on Long Island. So, any other thoughts? Any other ideas?
No, I just continue to enjoy doing this. And also, it's a learning process for me because I'm constantly trying to see what's going on and the changes in different communities.
Yeah, I mean, you are our mother. You embody everything that is the Leonard Team way: lifelong learning, curiosity, you know, a clear devotion to craft. You're, I mean, let's face it, a workaholic, but that serves you because, you've, how many years, if you don't mind me asking, how many years have you been in real estate?
Um, I got my license in 1986.
Yeah,
So that's when I started. My husband started in 1985, and he was successful from the beginning, and he needed my help from almost the beginning.
yeah,
But I was really part time then because I was a full time school teacher living in Smithtown, but teaching in Ozone Park, Queens.
right.
So just the travel a day was enough.
Hmm.
But I would come home, do real estate on weekends, and then in 1997, I retired from teaching and went into this full time and loved every minute of it.
But you've been able to evolve every step of the way. You never said, well, this is how we used to do it, this is how it always needs to be done. You and Dad together, and you were raised my sister, Danielle, who I'm partnered with now. You raised us to think we have to evolve. We have to constantly understand what's coming next so that we can continue to provide services and evolve. And you are doing that to this day. I mean, you're one of the most tech savvy people on the team. And that's just a
Right.
testament to you and your spirit, and I feel grateful that I've had you to mentor me all these years. So thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, Mom, Barbara Leonard,
Son.
thanks so much for joining us. Yeah, I can't wait to do this again because I always love having you. Your insights, your experience is nobody on Long Island can compete. Even Dad, I would say at this point.
Thank you.